Voila. So there you see it. That's the plan from pulling your hair to dreaming or seeing the reality of A star. So that's what we're here to do. The paper that I picked for today is the latest one, and that's what I'm going to do. Then I'm sure you're somewhere here. You're not quite there anymore. You're prepared. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the latest ones and work our way backwards. So I'm going to start with November 24, paper 31. And remember, don't just stick to your variant. Each variant should be practiced. The more of the recent papers you attempt, the better your chances of doing well in your exams. So do all three variants of November, June, March, whatever you can get your hands on. Make sure that you go through all the latest past papers as soon as you can. So that's what I'm going to do. And this is what the case study is. So as we know that now the case study, since the syllabus sort of changed, walaikum salam. So since the syllabus has changed, your case study will be no more than 2 pages worth of reading. So that's a good thing. They obviously reduced the time as well, so this would fit into that idea. So, and what's a given is that you will be tested on all 5 units in this paper. So you'll have 5 questions. They will range from all 5 units. Within each unit, obviously, there are multiple chapters. They would pick one topic from one chapter, and that's obviously you'll be tested on. So don't take any chances with, oh, I can give up this unit for revision or that. You go fully prepared for your exam. And again, you will find the information divided into different paragraphs. Those paragraphs are basically divided into headings, and each heading would tell you what kind of information is contained in that paragraph. So you can see clearly here, this one's talking about marketing, this one has HR, liquidity is purely finance. This is where we talk about expansion. So there's a bit of marketing and a decision tree here, and then TQM, which is operations. So you will see that the entire syllabus is represented in these 2 pages, and you'll be given a brief information about the company before, and then you see the division of the different units here. Okay, so I've picked an 8-mark question and a 16-mark question. Again, 16 with 4 being calculation and a 12-mark essay answer. And the 8-mark question that I've picked today, it has to do with marketing. So we're going to talk about 2 benefits to the business of marketing plan. And then we're going to do a couple of ratios before going to a question, which is on the topic of liquidity. So pure ratios and marketing plan, which is second chapter of marketing. That's marketing plan, and ratios is the second chapter of finance. That's what we're looking at today. Okay, so what you'll see me talking about again and again, as you have seen me talk about again and again, are 4 skills that you need to show in your answers, which is your knowledge, application, analysis, and evaluation. An 8-mark question does not require evaluation, so be very straight to the point. You know that knowledge is, make sure you talk about the concept that's being tested. So you know how we say, lambi karni and things like that, that's no longer needed. Just stick to what you've been asked. Application is, make sure you bring in context from the case study using information about the business. And then analysis is the easiest part, the advantages and disadvantages to the business of that concept that you're discussing. So that sequence remains intact for 8-marker. And then for 12-marker, additionally, with each paragraph, you would include a little bit of evaluation and then a final paragraph of evaluation as well. Remember, 6 out of 12 marks in your 12-mark essay answer are for evaluation. So you got to get that right. Okay, so we'll go through all of that. And but something that I always recommend is that whenever you're reading your case study, there are certain things that you should make a note of, sort of highlight them, and make sure that you have them at the tip of your fingers. Just let me just quickly set up my colors here. There we go. So first thing that you should highlight and make a note of, the nib is too thick, Mr. Yavar. There we go. First thing is, whatever the business's structure is, whether they're a private limited, public limited, tells you about the decision making and how the money is being brought into the business. Secondly, the kind of product. I'll answer your questions in 1 minute. The product they're selling, it helps you to focus in on the marketing side of things. Also, whether they're currently B2B or B2C, so basically their distribution channel. And number 4, any objective that the business has. And if an objective is not given, then you may be given a mission. So the moment you see these, it just helps me to understand the case study that much better. And that's what I recommend to you guys. This is October, November 24, paper 3-1. Yeah. So again, the first question they'll be doing on marketing, but even before we do that, we have to read the basics of the business, what they do. So let's read through this, get an understanding, and then we'll go into the marketing bit. So this is called Topo Chalk Enterprises, so TC. They made it easy for us. So TC is a private limited company that has manufactured premium quality chocolates in country are over 15 years. So straight off the bat, we see a couple of pieces of information that we want to highlight. We see that they're a private limited company, and we know the product they're selling, which is premium quality chocolate. So premium, you would expect the packaging would be premium, the pricing would be premium, the distribution channel would be premium. So everything says it's what you are willing to pay a high price for. The directors know the business faces significant competitive pressures over the next 2 years. So I guess I'll make a small note of it, because any problems a business may be facing, you can bring in as application in your answers. So significant competition is what they face. I might need it for later. Now they plan to improve income elastic. Hard to say with competition. We're not given information about incomes yet, so let's wait for that. Okay, so they plan to improve TC's efficiency and competitiveness. So to counter this problem, what they're considering are 5 moves, 5 tactics that they want to bring in. And notice how all 5 are from different functions of the business. So finance, operations, marketing, HR, that's what they're doing here. And if you go in sequence, we see that the first thing they want to do, just give me a second. Yeah, first thing they want to do is get a new product range in. So this is purely marketing there. Then we see that they want to improve the effectiveness of their human resource management. So in HR, then they say that they want to improve liquidity. It's purely finance. And then we see increasing international sales. Again, a bit of marketing. And the last one, as you can clearly see, has to do with TQM, total quality management. One new product range and so a new product range means that you are developing your product portfolio. The way to produce it, what resources you want to bring in, that would be a more operations discussion. This is about the range of the offering, and the offering is dependent upon what the customers want, on who is willing to distribute our product. Yeah, diversity in your product range, absolutely. So these are the things they want to do. TC has grown organically, which means internally they use their own money, and they rely on their own recipes and things like that. Directors have never set smart business objectives, and that there is a very, very useful point for evaluation, because objectives are something that you always bring in evaluation of your answers to say that are we on the right track or not. And if a company does not have a well defined objective, then this becomes a big limitation. So that's something that you can reserve for evaluation points, that if you don't know your objective, you don't know where you're headed, the focus is gone, the clarity is gone, the workers don't know what they need to do. So that's something that you can bring in your evaluation later on, and I'll bring that in my 12-mark answer. So the first question, which I just want to show to you before I go to the next bit, is asking you to analyze 2 benefits to TC of marketing planning for the new range of chocolate bars. Right now, again, I will emphasize this, that you take the extra 2 minutes at the start of your answer and divide your question into knowledge, application, and analysis. This is an 8-mark question. The command word is analyze, so only till an analysis. And the way to do that is obviously you pick the one word that you can define, or one concept you can explain, that's knowledge. Application is which situation of the business they want you to focus on. Analysis is the easy part. Either it's the benefits or the limitations. So when I read through this, I can say that the question is analyze 2 benefits to TC of marketing planning for the new range of chocolate bars. So I see this and I know that marketing plan is something I can definitely explain. So that's my knowledge bit there. Then my situation that they want me to discuss is somewhere they'll be discussing about a new product range of chocolate bars. So that would be application. Absolutely, Anya. And then in terms of its analysis, I think that's easy. 2 benefits only. Yeah, so 2 benefits, that would be my analysis. So, what I do at this point is I sort of rephrase the question in my head. And I think that, well, if Marketing planning is used for launching a new product range. What is really the benefit of it? This is the first sequence. This is the second sequence, and that's how basically I now have a sort of an answer structure in my mind. That this is what I want to explain. And obviously, in order to do that, we will need to first look at the case study. But just off the top of my head, what I can tell you about marketing planning is that you've seen that there are 5 stages to marketing planning. You first identify the objective, why you're doing this marketing plan. Then you go to do your research, both internal and external. Then you decide upon a long-term strategy. Then according to that strategy, you come up with the tactics, and then in the end you evaluate that. So the whole point of doing that is you coordinate activities, you can evaluate your performance, you can identify the research, you can keep an eye on the external pressures that might be coming in. So there are many benefits to marketing plan. I think what I'm going to use is definitely the bit about coordination. If you have the right strategy, you will know the right tactics. That's obvious. And the second one I could use, I guess, is that you can see whether you're on track or not and make changes along the way. So I think those are the two I'll use, but I'll need obviously my case study for that. So straight away we see the information on marketing, right? So private limited company, premium chocolates, there are a lot of pressures being faced, and they want to change basically everything about the business. But the problem is they don't have a clear objective. And now we come to the marketing bit. So marketing a new product range, we know that's in the question. So this is where we'll find all the information that we need for application. So TC sells its chocolates in boxes of 4 to 24 individual pieces. TC prices are high and reflect the top quality ingredients, hand decorating, and luxurious packaging. So this is what they're offering, right? They want to charge a high price, but they back it up by high prices, but they also have top quality ingredients, luxurious packaging, hand decorating. All of that will definitely come at a cost, and that's why they charge a higher price. The boxes are sold to retailers and online outlets that match this top quality image. So what they're doing is they're selling to other B2B clients, which is other retailers. I'm just going to make a note of it here, that they sold to retailers and online outlets. Again, outlets, not individuals. And they want to make sure that it's those outlets that match their top quality image. Alice, the marketing director, thinks TC could use its knowledge to produce lower cost chocolate bars. So there is an opportunity that they can also go into the lower cost chocolate bars. And this is what the question was asking, right? The new product range. This is the new product range, a lower cost chocolate bar. The bars would be sold to supermarkets. So now they're not selling to retailers, they're selling probably to like the giant retailers. And that's interesting. So that's the twist, that because I want to keep it all blue. Yeah. They want to now sell to supermarkets to sell as their own value product. So the name on the product will not be TC. The name on the product will be Yawar Supermarket. But the chocolate in there would be a low-cost chocolate made by TC. That's fine, right? You just want to make sure that you're selling more products. If anybody else wants to put their brand on it, then you still sell it. But the problem is then you're not getting the recognition for it. It's not adding to your own brand value, etc., etc. Alice's calculations show that profit margins would be satisfactory. Now, this is an interesting statement, right? Profit margins would be satisfactory. Now, satisfactory, if I really think about it, this is a very vague word. What is satisfactory? What is a target profit margin? And that's something that I can bring in my discussion later on. And she will develop a marketing plan for approval by the board of directors. So this is the plan that she's going ahead with. We know that in terms of my marketing plan, if I take this information and sort of map it out on the marketing plan, and let me just do it here. We know that marketing plan, first of all, starts with your objective. Okay, then you do a bit of research to see what's happening internally, externally to the business. Then you come up with your strategy. That's followed by your short-term tactics. And then in the end, you can basically evaluate your plan, whether you're on the right track or not. I hope you can see it and it's fitting into the screen. Yeah. So in terms of its objective, right, they're thinking about a new product. That's what they want to do. What they've done research on, and they know that there is high competition. So that's something that they will have to consider. In terms of their strategy, they're now going to sell to supermarkets. And the tactics, of course, are determined by this. So this is where I will focus on in my answer. I'll talk about the pricing. I'll talk about low quality product, low cost. So that's something that's tactical. And then you decide whether you were on the right track or not, what the progress is. So that's what the company is trying to do. And the whole idea of doing this is to make sure if you have all of this planned, the first thing you are able to do is make sure you have complete coordination, which means that your strategy will match your tactics and your tactics will back your strategy. If you can get this cycle going, that's when you know you have the right marketing plan. And that's the point that I want to bring into my answer here. Okay. Now, in an 8-mark question, remember you are given 2 marks for knowledge, 2 marks for application, and 4 marks for analysis. And it's a good idea to maybe start off with a bit of definition. And here, what I would do is definitely take a couple of lines to define what marketing planning is. So the 5 steps that I talked about above, that's what you will do. Define what marketing plan is. Also mention the 5 stages. Look, these are the stages that the company is doing, etc., etc. So spend a couple of lines, maybe 3 lines on doing this. And then within the first paragraph, make sure you bring in the discussion of the company, which is TC. What TC is doing is they're going to launch a new product range. And it would be a good idea to mention what that new product is, which is a low cost chocolate bar. Okay. Now, you could either switch paragraphs or stick to the same one. I say stick to the same one because at max you will have 24 lines to finish your 8-mark answer, right? You don't need to fill up all 24. That's just the maximum. You could do it in less than that, obviously. And what I would do is I would start off with mentioning a bit of knowledge here again in my paragraph. And I will say that the first benefit is that you can coordinate your marketing activities. Okay, again, you can fill in the words when you're writing the answers. I'm just going to make a nice answer guide so it's easy to understand. And then straight away bring in some application, right? And here my application is, well, they are launching a new low cost bar, which is being used to target supermarkets. Right? And don't just leave it at that. Explain what that means. It's often the mistake students make is they simply write the same words or roughly the same sentences from the case study into your answer, expecting that's application. The examiner wants you to identify the reason and then explain what happens in the business. And what happens in the business as a result is that you can now sell large quantities at a lower price. Right? If you're making at a lower cost, you can sell it at a lower price. So once you explain your application here, then I bring in my analysis that since I'm talking about coordinating activities, I'll say, well, once you have the strategy, and the strategy was that you're going to sell to supermarkets, and since supermarkets buy in large quantities, you can offer bulk pricing. Right? And why am I talking about pricing? Because that's something that is part of our discussion of tactics. Yeah, you can also bring in economies of scale here, that by producing it at a lower cost, you are technically increasing your profit margins. And what you can also do is you can offer bulk discounts. What it does is that it encourages more supermarkets to buy from TC, and that means more revenue. Okay, so attracts more retailers, yeah, more supermarkets, when they see the pricing is obviously in their favor. And you can say revenue, and since they also talk about profit margin, you can say this is something that can add to the profit margin. So very, very distinctly three layers. Yeah. So again, Himesh, what you're saying is correct, but it's a very much a judgment that you're given. So I would reserve that for a 12 marker. You can bring that in here. That's not a problem. But it's just it's also as evaluation if this was a 12 marker. Um, yeah, so Aisha, you could talk about that, that since this is low cost, they can use this to counter the growing competition that's coming in from the external environment. Let me, in fact, Aisha, that's a great point. Let me use that as the second paragraph. Okay, so by doing this, let me just number it here. Probably this would be your first paragraph, right? At this point, you get a little break, would tell you that I'm changing paragraph. This is not hangman. And you go into number two. And my second paragraph again would then be a combination of knowledge, application, and analysis. Starting with knowledge, what's one of the benefits? As Aisha rightly pointed out, it can be, and again, I want to link it to marketing plan as well. So you can, what I want to say is oops, you can conduct research, and this way you can monitor the external environment. Okay, so that's the point that I want to bring in here. And for that, I already have a little bit of information as application, which was that there is increasing uh, competitive pressure, right? And this is what's forced, excuse me, and this is what's forcing them to improve their market attractiveness. And then you bring in your analysis, is that if you're able to set the right prices, and why are you able to do that? Because you now have greater economies of scale. Remember, they talk about low cost, so that's leading to economies of scale. And by doing that, you can counter the growing competition and perhaps lead to more market share. Okay. Um, and you can, and again, the Himesh, the point you were making, I think I want to bring that here. But, just so that it just looks cool. That, however, these are not sold as TC brand. So the question is, will market share really grow? That's something that is not quite clear. But definitely what you can do is you can do the research. Where remember, research leads you to knowing the amount of pressure you are facing from competition, and you can use better decisions to do that. You could also mention here, then this way you can also monitor your competition. So monitor. I guess I mentioned that earlier on, so let's not repeat ourselves. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so Anishad, what you're talking about is research, right? And the methods of research, I wouldn't go in that much detail here because they're not asking us about the benefits of research. So I don't want to be in too detail about it. What they're asking us about as a whole, is marketing plan useful or not? So stay on the surface. Yeah, use these information, but don't go in too much detail about what kind of research would lead to this sort of result. Okay, because they've already conducted the research and they know what's happening, right? So yeah, so this is how I would answer this 8 marker. I don't think you would be able to fill up full 24 lines with this. Obviously, you make your answers as good as you can. You use a lot of application, go in detail. One thing that I will always recommend, and that's again, I will emphasize this at each point. Remember, each point that you make in either an 8 marker, 12 marker is a combination of knowledge, application, analysis for sure, right? Obviously, 12 marker, you bring in evaluation as well. But remember, each point, maybe I should write it here. Each point is basically as easy as 1, 2, 3. And what I mean by that is that you make sure that you have at least one line mentioned for knowledge. So that's what I did there. And I'll show it again. You have at least two lines to explain what application is, and you have at least three lines of analysis. So one after the other. So when I say three lines, it means that, one point leads into another, leads into another. So there's a chain of consequences, not just randomly putting things in it. And if you think about this sequence, and you look at my answer here, that's exactly what I've done, right? Notice how you see one clear mention of knowledge, you see two clear mentions of application, this one and this one, and then you see three, even four here, this, and this. So as long as you're doing this, that's what the examiners say. Read through the marking schemes, and you will see that they say show at least one link in application, which means two sentences and one leading into another would mean there's one link. Analysis says you must have at least two links, which means three sentences being joined by two links. So this level of detail and this chain of consequences, as long as you mention that and maintain that, you'll be okay. I hope that made sense. It makes sense in my head for sure. Yeah, the question clearly asked for two benefits, Sania, so you mentioned two only. Yes, Anusha, you could also talk about that. Economies of scale, Ali, because economies of scale means you're able to reduce your cost. You have two options when we have lower costs. You can either reduce your price or you can continue to you maintain your or increase your profit margin. So that's what it is. This is not a class dedicated to mock question discussions. But I would say that critical path is important. Anyways, moving on. So I said what I had to. Stick around for the rest of the class. Maybe you'll get more out of me. Let's move on, right? And the next question that I have for you is actually the third question in this case study. And this one asks us to make obviously two calculations, what they want us to do. The first one is a reference to table 1.1, and they want us to calculate the asset test ratios. Can someone tell me what the asset test ratio is? Let's quickly see how if you're really studying or not. What's the formula? Uh, 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 uh. Come on. I know it.
Sir, current
Fine.
assets minus inventories divided by current total liabilities.
Yeah, current liabilities, not total. So total current assets minus inventory divided by current liabilities. So that would be the formula. Then the second question, this is a two marker, and the second one is asking us to calculate trade receivables turnover ratio. Can someone help me with that? Oh, why am I writing ETR? Turtle. This is called trade receivables turnover. Turtle. Yeah, that's what it was called. Anyone? Very good. Trade receivables divided by credit sales, and this is always given in in days. So therefore, 365. Okay, so whenever you see this question, and if it says refer to table 1.1, you don't need anything else from the rest of the case study, just table 1.1. So let's look at table 1.1. It's given here, and it's an extract from TC's financial statements. And what we definitely need for asset test ratio is your current assets, which is 2 million. Oh, excuse me, your total current assets. Then you have your inventory, and we also need your total current liability. So these are the two pieces of information that we need. Can you guys tell me quickly? Can you do it? I'll also do it. I can do it just here, I guess. So this would be, yeah, yeah. Oh, sorry. I highlighted the wrong bit. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You're right. Sorry. You're right. These are non-current. I wanted to highlight the current ones. Your trade receivables. I'm gonna change trade receivables, cash, and inventory. My bad. And the other one as well. Yeah. Sorry, I am still rosaing, I guess. So this is, we only have trade payables. Okay, so this is 2.4, 3. Do I include inventory or deduct it? Right, that's right. So basically, the sum of this minus this. So 1.4 plus zero point 0.6 are your liquid assets. You deduct the inventory from it, or you simply don't take it. So this becomes 2. And your current liabilities of your current liability of total trade payables is just 3. So my asset test ratio simply becomes 2 divided by 3, which is 0.67 is to 1. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, what you could simply do is, maybe I take this and I will place it in my answer. And there you go. So there's our answer there. Okay, make sure you write it in this space. Yeah, this is bad. You know, the ideal is 1:1. Therefore, this is not good liquidity. Okay, now let's look at your trade receivables turnover ratio. I will do this correctly this time. So what you need is, excuse me, your credit sales, and we're given that here. Revenue from credit sales is 5 million. Himesh, you discussed that in your essay answer. You definitely discuss the ratios in your essay answers, and you will evaluate that by saying that there. Okay. Um, then this is your credit sales. Your trade receivables were 1.4, right? Yeah. So trade receivables are here, still at the bottom. 1.4. 1.4. Anybody has the answer? So this would be my that's the answer, 102.2. I would write that as 103 days. Okay, so that's the answer there. And you write that. Make sure you write the correct unit. This is in days. The other one was is to 1. So that bit is very important. Okay. Honestly, Sani, I can't remember. Or I can't honestly can't remember. I know I'm just looking at this paper, and that's all I can remember. Okay, shall we move on to the essay answer of this question? So what we know, let's just look at the answers, right? What we know is that their asset test ratio does not paint a pretty picture. It's below the ideal rate. They don't even have enough money to pay their current liabilities, let alone other problems. And 103 days is what this number is. Although we don't have any other information about what the number was previously, but if it's 104 days, that's roughly 1/3 of the year. That's pretty long, right? So let's see what information we have beyond this, and let's read the case study further. So then just want to remind you what the business is: selling chocolate. They're launching a new product range. They're now going to sell to supermarkets. And one of their main concerns was improving liquidity. So they had already, highlighted that very early on in the answer in the case study. And let's read through this now. Although we are not concerned with the HR bit here, so you can, in your exams, if you're doing a finance question, you can safely skip over HRM, but you may need it for evaluation if you want to bring it in. So I'm going to quickly read through it so that we sort of have full understanding of what the case studies say. So improving HRM effectiveness is one of their new objectives for the year. Tembo, HR manager, wants to improve the effectiveness of HRM. He wants to invest in artificial intelligence such as new employee selection methods and virtual reality employee induction. Wow. Okay, so they're really going out there, huh? He researched the initial cost of AI software and training his HR staff to use it. Tembo believes TC has the finance required for this investment. However, he is aware that implementation of AI does not guarantee a return on investment. So what they're saying is, look, they want to bring in tech. First, they want to improve HR, but they're actually replacing people by bringing in more AI. So that's a bit of evaluation. Return on investment, we really don't know because AI is still a fast developing piece of technology. You don't know where it's headed. So you can't really say how much more money you'll need to keep it going. But with AI, you have more smart softwares getting the best analysis in. They can pick the right employee. They can choose the type of training that has to be provided based on the kind of employee they're hiring. So you can definitely argue for its benefits as well. But that would be for the question on HR. What our focus is the improving liquidity part. And before I go into this, let me show you the question so we know what we are looking for. Here you go. Evaluate methods TC could use to improve liquidity. Wow, short and sweet. So they leave it to us. And again, if you think about liquidity, right? And one more thing is there isn't much to divide in this question in terms of knowledge application as its evaluation. But even if we try to do, let's try to do it. Well, they want us to talk about liquidity. That's the bit about knowledge. Application is how to improve liquidity. That's what their focus is right now. The analysis is what methods TC could use and their benefits or drawbacks. And simply in the end, evaluate, give your thought. Will it work? Will it not work? That would be my evaluation. And the thing about improving liquidity is that we've learned that there are basically three ways that you can use to improve liquidity. One thing you do is that you reduce your outflows. Secondly, you increase your inflows. And thirdly, you sell. We will focus on what we're here to do. Guys, your grade is my grade. So let's work towards that. Okay. So we were talking about a business called TC. They sell chocolates. That makes me want to have some chocolate. Actually, I do have a box of quality sweets at home, so I'll be indulging into that. So I was saying that this company is looking to improve their liquidity. There are three ways to do that. Either you reduce your outflows, you improve your inflows, and or you could sell your unwanted assets. Now, the way to answer this question is always, since this is a 12 marker, then it needs to be a mix of, so if I'm talking about a 12 marker, it must be a combination of quantitative as well as your qualitative assessment. So what I mean by that is use the the calculations that you've obviously you've performed in some part in the answer. They're looking for your feedback on that, so we'll discuss that as well. And I think I'll talk about all three options because we can do that in this question. So I would divide my answer into three paragraphs. One thing that I absolutely recommend is that to turn my AC off. Ugh. And one thing I absolutely recommend is that at the end of each paragraph, bring in a couple of lines of evaluation and also then reserve a bit of evaluation towards the end. Remember, 6 out of the 12 marks are for evaluation and then 2 each for knowledge application and analysis. So you need to have enough of it in there. And when I go back to the case study and I read through the next part, remember we had stopped at HR effectiveness. Then here's the bit of improving liquidity. And if I can face you guys better, yeah, that's better. So the director wants to improve the liquidity of TC. Yeah, no, obviously you need to Sherlock. The current interest rate in country R is high. So what's that saying is that if even if you go to get a bank overdraft in the short term to fix your liquidity problems, you will have to face a high cost of borrowing. So this is again a judgment that you can reserve for evaluation later on. Okay, Mr. Kavadia, this is November 24, variant 31. So let me just highlight this bit. This is important information. So current interest rate is high, which means high borrowing cost. At the last board meeting, the directors considered the information in table 1.1. What we're seeing is, and something very obvious, is if you look at this bit here, the revenue and from cash sales, the revenue from credit sales, right? This is 1:5. So the larger chunk is coming from credit sales. And that's something that perhaps they could fix. That if you're giving too much credit, maybe that's why you're leading into liquidity problems. And what we can use here is the trade receivables turnover ratio, that you're giving one, about 80% of your sales are on credit, and what you're doing is that you're giving them 103 days to give the money back. That's obviously going to lead to liquidity problems. So I can mix that up into a point. The other thing I have to talk about is to reduce my cash flows, the outflows, and there I can bring in my asset test ratio that, look, it's already 0.67:1. You're below the ideal rate, and maybe you delay your payments to suppliers and increase your trade payables turnover ratio to improve your liquidity. And then I will see if there's a discussion I can find in there where there's any asset that they can sell. Okay, so let's start developing the answer. And I have that space reserved here. Now, you don't necessarily need to define anything here, but that's always a good way to start an answer. We've been sort of used to it, so I don't mind that. So very clearly, what you have identified as knowledge was liquidity. So I'll just briefly explain what liquidity here: the ability to meet the short-term needs and pay your daily bills to keep your business running. Link it to obviously the discussion of working capital. And like I always say, that bring in a bit of application right away. So what TC are going through right now is poor liquidity, and they have a very high dependency on credit, right? Credit sales. And then you don't have to change your paragraph. I suppose you stay in the same one. And then what you do is you go again with the sequence of knowledge, application, analysis, and evaluation. And in terms of my knowledge, what I'll discuss here, that the first thing that tells us that liquidity is bad is your the amount of credit sales. So that's my first point of discussion, that credit sales will lead to lower liquidity. And this is something that I'll need to prove. And for that, remember, your calculations are the application in this answer. Okay, sorry, Ryan, I'll come to you in a minute. So what you will bring in here, well, you can look at your trade receivables turnover ratio, what we call TER, and that's at 103 days of money coming from retailers. And what that means is that there is about a 3-month delay to pay bills with this amount, right? Again, don't just throw the number in there, explain what it's telling you. And what it is doing for the business is obviously leading to poor liquidity. And the solution that you provide here will then become the analysis. That, remember, they're asking to how the methods that they could use to improve it. And the method here would be to reduce the time given to your retailers, right? Yeah, absolutely, Ali. If you calculate that, bring in your valuation, that works fine. If you give less time to retailers, it will bring prompt payments. What you could also mention here, by the way, is either give less time or offer discounts. Right? If you pay early, you can pay less money, and that's one way you could also go in your analysis, and prompt payments will improve your working capital. Right? And like I mentioned before, that bring in a bit of evaluation over here. And what happens here is if you give less time to your customers to pay, then they will switch to competitors. And this is where hopefully you guys are thinking what I'm thinking. And a bit of additional evaluation would be there's already growing competitive pressure. Remember that was earlier on the case study. So a good way to evaluate, by the way, is bring information from other parts of the case study and use that as support. And since it's already growing competitive pressure, this will create more trouble for TC. So that hopefully you can see it's a nice complete point where I'm using my numbers and I'm talking about how to improve. The method is also there, and its pros and its con, and also bringing in the external environment discussion. That's what you want to be doing in each paragraph. Okay. um then I can go to the second one. Remember, I talked about here that you reduce your credit sales, so which is you are basically improving your cash inflow. Now, the next one I will talk about reducing your cash outflow. So again, start with a bit of, well, let me give a break so you know that I'm switching paragraphs here. And you bring in a bit of knowledge that, well, what you can also do is that you can reduce your outflows, and that's a way to improve your liquidity. Remember, your 2 points of analysis should be as different from one another as possible. That way, the examiner has more to reward you. Okay. And your application here would then be, again, use your numbers smartly. Then when we looked at our asset test ratio, it was 0.67 is to 1. And again, explain what this means. This means that for $1 of liability, you only have 0.67. So what that means is that you are about $0.33 short in meeting short-term debts, right? Yeah, Hania, I'll reserve that comparison to the ideal for evaluation. Okay. So if this is happening, if you and this is going bad, then what you can do is you can increase your payment period to suppliers. Okay. Since they're making chocolate, which means they'll have cocoa suppliers, so you can bring that in here. And by doing that, if you delay later, that you what you end up doing is you retain cash in the business, and you can use this for promoting the new chocolate bar. Right, so just bringing that here, they're also going to sell towards the supermarket, and that's where this cash could be used to improve their sales. And then again, bring in your evaluation here that suppliers may deny the request of delaying payments or simply cancel orders, which if they deny the request, that means you still have a high cost, or if they cancel the orders, there is no production, which is a bigger problem. And additionally, your uh, asset test ratio is already below the ideal of 1:1. Okay, I suppose you could have brought this point over here as well. So when you were discussing the calculation, you could mention that here, and it would still count as evaluation. I'm not saying deny discounts. I'm saying they deny the request to pay later. That's what I mean. Okay, so once again, you see knowledge application as is equally represented. Now I'll go through your comments. Okay. Yeah, so there's no guarantee, right, Himesh? That's one thing you can also bring in your evaluation. You get to say that this isn't really a permanent solution. Yeah, so I guess if you can maintain paying later and receiving earlier, you'd want it to become a permanent thing. So again, but it's an external stakeholder that has to confirm that. So the customer has to agree to that, the retailers and the suppliers of cocoa have to agree to that. So that bit is not in your hands, Mirab. That's if that's what you mean. Um, yeah, you can talk about any other calculation. In fact, Neha, that's a great point you bring up. You saw that there was plenty of information, right? A lot of numbers. If you can find any other formula to use and bring in any other ratio in your answer, that's like a superior level of evaluation. You do that, it starts looking even prettier. So do that. Okay. Yeah. So look, what you're asked, the question saying, tell us about the methods, and the methods are clearly reduce payment, paying, you pay later, you receive earlier, and you just evaluate how doing or how taking those steps will maybe lead to a situation which has a longer term impact on the business. Okay, so just stick to that sort of, I guess, discussion. Um, yeah. Anything else that I can bring from here? I guess 2 points is enough. You could bring in a third one. I was looking for any assets that they might have to sell. Let me just, I think I did see something here. Here, no, was it here? No, there isn't really a discussion on any assets that they might have that they could sell. Not in marketing, not clearly not in HR. Um, Maybe I could argue that their non-current assets are like $2 million are their non-current assets. So maybe just leave a comment in there at the start of the second point that you could also sell some of your maybe land or whatever else you may have, and that is another way to free up some cash. Okay, so if you wanted a third point, I'm just gonna just mention that here. I'm not gonna go in full detail. That another point that you could have brought here potentially would be to sell assets. Okay, just leaving that as a pointer. Oh, excuse me. What is this? Wow, pencil. No, no. Wait. Sorry, I'm not getting carried away. There you go. So just leaving that there. Okay. Now, what's important is to make sure that you have a final evaluation. Right? And a lot of you have brought some interesting discuss points, right? And it's just really a mixture of all of that. And they could use it. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Huge. So Neha says, well, if you want to save money on inventory, that maybe what you could do is you could introduce just in time, and this way you will have less of your cash tied up, and you could maybe support this with the inventory turnover ratio. If you can calculate that, that's perfectly fine. um, what I want to say is that the cash to credit ratio, right, which was 1:5, what it means is that most of their sales are coming from credit. So maybe the credit bit, this is the best option, that you have 5 million in credit sales. So this was the fastest way to improve our cash situation. What you could also say is that I guess lack of objective could also means that there is no focus for finance. We really don't know how to manage because they don't know what a clear objective is. So again, there was something that I told you that it's a limitation of the company, and I'll try to bring it in my evaluation if I can. Um, Anything else you guys want to add? And again, if you talk about selling of assets, this is number 4. If you sell an asset, what you will definitely talk about in its evaluation is what if it's needed again? Then you're in another world of trouble. So that's again something that to think about. Uh, so, um, I guess Aisha, what you could mention is that in order to promote to, uh, um, actually I wouldn't, right? Because in order to promote to say the supermarkets, Aisha, you would do direct selling, and I don't think that's where cash should be a problem. Cash should be a problem where you have to go mass media. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, and like I said, you could bring in evaluation as you please, but this is roughly a nice way to bring in all the information. Is investment appraisal coming? Where is it coming? I don't know. I don't know. What are you? Where are you asking? What are you asking about? Honestly, I don't remember the paper. I honestly don't. Um, Look, for my what you absolutely should be doing is attempting all the papers from 23 and 24, right? So if you attempt those, then you're more than prepared. Then whatever question you get, I'm sure you'll be able to do. That's what I can tell you. Okay, right. So this is the fruit of our labor for the day. We attempted an 8-mark question on marketing plan. Then we did a couple of calculations, which were ratios. And then we attempted a question on how to improve liquidity. Uh, are we okay? Hopefully, you have a better understanding of how to go about it. Uh, of course, Himesh, treat on your distinction. Take care. I will see you now on Tuesday. Tuesday, we'll attempt a paper 4. What I'll probably be doing is one of the questions from 2024 November, paper 4 1. I don't know what question that is just yet. Um, so, Ali, things like these, you forget and move on, buddy. Eye on the prize. The prize was this class. We were able to get through this ups and downs in life. What's the confusion, Halima? Zoom into what exactly, Anusha? Same time, same time, same time. Mm. Let me share this. Let me share this document on your Google Classroom as PDF. Then you can look easily. How about that? Okay. Is that what you were saying, Hania? Upload this, right? SSEs. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Cool. Got it. All right, guys. Thanks for coming. Don't leave me alone in these classes. Keep coming. See you on Tuesday. Take care and have a great rest of Ramadan. Take care. Bye bye. Allah Hafiz.